I was in this coaching moment recently, and 3 different women asked these 3 very different questions, but they all had one common theme through all 3 questions. One of the questions was, how can I have more of a spark in my relationship with my man? The second question was, how can I have my man open up and share more about his day and his life with me? And the third question was, how can I have more alone time away from my man? Now, the common thread that all 3 of these questions have is, how can I get a need that I have or a desire that I have met in this relationship in a way that's good for both of us, in a way that is effective, it doesn't push him away, but creates a beautiful relationship experience. And so today I want to share with you a beautiful framework, a very simple 3-step process for how you can ask for your needs to be met. How can you get more of what you want in a relationship that bonds you together with your partner instead of pushes them away? And what I love about this process is it's easy to remember, easy to follow, and you will be able to use this over and over again in any relationship really that matters to you. So the first step is this one. Be really, really clear on what it is that you want. So specific, in fact, that you know exactly if he hits the mark, and he can know exactly if he hits the mark. One of the challenges with the way that each of these questions were asked is, I want to feel more of a spark in our relationship, or I want him to open up more, or I want more time away. The question is, how do you know when you've hit more? What does more actually look like? Like, how do you know you've hit the benchmark? Remember, masculine energy loves a goal. Goals are very specific. You either hit the goal or you miss the goal. So I asked the first woman, I said, okay, you want more of a spark in a relationship. What does that specifically look like? Well, how would you know if there was more of a spark? Now, I had all kinds of images in my mind. You might have all kinds of images of what more of a spark looks like. What she said wasn't at all what I was thinking. I was thinking more of a physical spark, like they would be kissing, they would be hugging, they would be making love, they would be having romantic dates, maybe things like that. No, that's not what she said at all. What she said is, oh, if we had more spark, we would be doing mundane chores together in a really fun way. I went, okay, so like, tell me more. And she goes, well, we'd be cooking, or we'd be doing the dishes together and having fun and laughing, or we'd be doing the laundry together, having fun and laughing. That's the kind of spark that I want. And I said, now we're talking, because that is specific, right? Very different to say someone, I want more of a spark with you, and the person's feeling like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to provide that, how to contribute that. I don't know when I've hit the mark. Versus for her to say, hey, I would love us to cook a dinner together, or for us to do the dishes together and to have fun while we're doing it. And so what's great is this particular coaching experience was a 5-day retreat that we were leading in our institute. It's called the Breakthrough Retreat. It's part of our Platinum program. It's amazing. So that night, she got a chance to talk to her husband about it. And she asked him in this very specific way that I coached her on how to bring this up and then how to lay it forward as far as what she's asking for. And she was like, Matt, that blew my mind. She was like, it was so awesome. He's totally in. He loves the idea that I shared with him. So in a moment of what was feeling like, oh, my relationship is good, but it's not as great as it could be, because it was a good relationship. She wants to take it even higher. She was having resistance to asking for what she wanted because it was framed as just a spark. But when she got really clear on the specifics of what it would be, then it made it really easy for her to ask. And her husband was like, oh, I'm in for that. In fact, let's do a whole cooking thing together and have fun while we're cooking. And I asked her, I said, does that hit the mark? And she was like, oh, 1,000%. I'll give you another example. The woman who wanted more time away. She was like, how do I get more time away from my husband? And, he gets nervous about this stuff. And as she began to unpack that scenario, he's 15 years older than she is. And so she's asking for more time away. So I asked her, okay, specifically, what would hit the mark for you? How much time away do you want? I said, do you want 5 days a week away where you only see him on the weekends? The 2 of them are married. And she was like, no. Like, I just want like 1 afternoon away a week. Oh, that was way less than I thought she was saying. The fact she seemed like she was making this big deal when she presented it to me. And she only wants 1 afternoon away each week. I asked her, I said, have you shared this with him? Like the specific amount? And she was like, no, I just say that I want more time. And I said, well, notice this. The resistance that we have in those moments is often sourced in fear. He might be afraid, like if you want more time, that you're just going to get pulled away and get further and further and further away, and he's going to lose you. You're 15 years younger than he is. He might think, oh, she's tired of me. I'm too old for her. And she was like, no, that's not it at all. And I said, great. So just share with him exactly the amount that you want away, if he'd be willing to support that. And knowing that it might be a source of fear, of insecurity for him, you can begin by affirming how much you love him, how much you're so glad the two of you are together, and this would really feel life-giving to you. She had that conversation. She came back going, Matt, this was amazing. It totally blew my mind. Like an afternoon away once a week, like easy, done. I'm happy to support you with that. How amazing it gets when we get really specific on what it is that we want. That is step number one. So the second step in this process is to cultivate this environment of giving and receiving. I call this the upward spiral. When we're willing to give in the relationship to each other, people are way more willing to give back when they feel like their tank is full or their cup is full, when they feel poured into. But what's really easy in a relationship is to get into this downward destructive spiral of taking, where you kind of snap at each other, or you take from one another, or you're just because you want recognition from the other person or appreciation from the other person. You try to share how hard your day was or what a struggle it was, hoping they'll say, oh, you work really hard, and give you what you want. Where instead, if you just poured into the other person, filled up their cup, acknowledge them, create this upward spiral, then they will pour back into you. I'll give you a quick example of this. A woman I was coaching wanted her husband to open up more and to share about how he felt and what was going on for her. And so as we began to talk, I sensed maybe what was going on in the relationship. And I said, let me ask you a question. How often do you verbally appreciate what he's doing and how hard he's working and the way that he's contributing to the relationship? And she thought about it and she was like, it's probably been 3 years. 3 years. She hadn't acknowledged her husband. They had gotten in such this disconnected downward spiral that they are not even acknowledging each other. And so I gave her this homework assignment. I said, before you ask for anything, just pour into him. And every night before you go to bed, just share with him 3 things that you appreciate about him. Now, he might get suspicious because you haven't shared anything like this for 3 years. Eventually, he's going to really start to soak this in, and you'll notice that he will open up more and more and more. The next day, she came to me and she was like, Matt, that was magic. She was like, I literally poured into him. She was like, honey, I know I haven't said this kind of thing in a long time, but I think it a lot. And I just want you to know I really appreciate you for the way you show up here and the way you show up there. And I really admire this about you. And she said he looked at her like, what do you want? What are you trying to get? And she's like, no, honey, I want you to know that. And she said he just softened up in that moment and opened up, and he naturally started sharing in the way that she was asking for and she had desired it in the first place. So here's the cool part. You can interrupt and repattern any downward spiral you want the moment you call it out and say, hey, honey, I want to create a new pattern where we pour into each other, we uplift one another, we're positive with one another, and I'm willing to start right now. And you start giving each other compliments, acknowledgement, and you can create that upward spiral just like that. And step 3 is to make a clear request. So step 2, you've already poured in, you've created this beautiful upward spiral in the relationship. And in step 1, you're really clear about what it is you want. It's not just more time together or more spark. It's like, no, what would that actually look like? In step 3, then you make the request. You ask for it. So often we dial down what we want because we think we're asking for too much, or we don't feel like the person's going to give it to us, or we're going to feel like, oh, we're taking from them. When often your partner, if they're a loving partner, they want to know what you want. They want to know, they want the ability, the opportunity to help deliver that happiness to you. So if you're willing to ask for what you want, one of the greatest lessons I ever received in terms of asking was from my 3-year-old daughter, Isabella. This is back when she was 3. We went to this concert in the park in the summertime. And this particular park, you could bring all the food you wanted. So people would bring coolers with wine and cheese and snacks. And so we had brought coolers with wine and cheese. My second daughter was just a tiny baby. So Irene, my wife, was taking care of the second daughter, and I was running around with Isabella in this field. And this mom opens up this cooler and says, hey boys, popsicles. And Isabella at 3 hears popsicles, runs up to that mom and goes, I have one. And the mom's like, oh, you're so cute. Yeah, you can have a popsicle right here. And so Isabella's like eating the popsicle, like juice like coming down her cheeks. And I kind of catch up to her and I'm like, oh, we've got food. And the lady's like, oh, it's okay. It's no big deal. Great. And so Isabella's eating her popsicle. She's done. She sees another mom open up that cooler and go, boys, watermelon. Boom. Isabella's off. Before I can catch her, I'm running behind her. And she goes up to that mom. I have some. And the mom's like, oh, honey, you're so cute. Little 3-year-old girl. He was it. Watermelon. So Isabella's like very proud of herself. And I get up there. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that she, asked for the watermelon. The mom's like, no, we have plenty. It's all good. Isabella's eating the watermelon. Now there's like watermelon juice all over her face, all over her shirt. And then another mom opens up that cooler and she's like, boys, cheese. I grab her by the back of the shirt and I pull her. I'm like, Isabella, we've got food at our blanket, at our setup, honey. We don't need to go ask for food at other people's stuff. And she looked at me and she goes, Dad, it's okay, ask. I was like, from the mouth of babes, man. And I paused and I thought, where is my belief coming from that she can't go ask that mom for the cheese? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? The mom's going to say no, right? But she had already gotten watermelon. She had already gotten a popsicle. 2 items that I would not have encouraged her to ask for, but because she didn't have a limiting belief on what was possible to ask for, she's end up enjoying the fruits of that experience. And so I said to her, honey, it is okay, ask, go for it. And she ran over to that mom and she's like, I have some. And the mom was like, oh, you're so cute. Gave her some cheese. And I was like, look at that. So where in our lives do we limit ourselves? By some programming that says you've asked for too much. You can't have that. Now, we've got to be a match. Like Isabella was bringing joy to every environment she went in. She wasn't bringing a sour attitude, crying, whining. She was in this abundant, jubilant, is it okay if I have some? And if the person said no, it would have been okay with her. They could feel that. But where do we limit ourselves? And what we want, and what we're asking for? Because the only true limit to our experience of love and of joy and of expression is our imagination and what we believe we are worthy of. So what would it look like to dial that up? I encourage you to use these 3 steps. Number 1, get real clear about what it is that you want. Number 2, pour into others. Create this upward spiral environment. And number 3, be willing to ask. It's okay to ask. As my daughter would say, it's okay to ask. And so my question for you is this. If you could eliminate any limiting belief, what would you love for your love life right now? What would you love more of? Go ahead and post that in the comment section below. I appreciate you. Here is to your amazing, expansive, beautiful love life. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.